to the Season 1 finale of GamerPsych, where we are going to discuss in aggregate all of the things that we've discussed in the season so far, and we're going to use that as a method of determining whether or not The Division is the worst RPG ever conceived. Now, the opinions presented here are my own, and I know many of you will have a differing opinion, which I certainly encourage, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And the hyperbolic vitriol you are likely to hear is mostly for entertainment purposes. And as usual, to show you the most amount of gameplay in the shortest amount of time, we're going to be bringing it to you in the TripleStream format, where we're going to show you a bit of Eyefinity footage so you guys can see what it looks like to play on 3 screens. So, while we're taking a look at the many adventures of my player character below, the first thing I want to do is jump back to last episode where we talked a little bit about the difference between perseverance and perseveration. Now, unfortunately, this game is a bit of a grind, and I've played a lot of games that are grinding games, like Heroes and Generals, which starts out free, but you can grind your way up to a more paid-like experience, whereas this game, the grind is more of, well, just paying off the cost of purchase. Now, this of course makes me wonder whether I should persevere and try to level up as high as possible, or whether it's really just an exercise in futility. And I gotta say, based on the poor variety of gameplay presented thus far, it's not looking good. Next episode we're going to discuss is the one on Newtonian engagement, and we're going to talk about the 3 questions that are imperative to determining whether or not we're going to remain engaged. Question number 1, does the game provide us with missions that match up with why we started playing the game in the first place? My reason for playing this game was to experience the role of a sleeper cell agent tasked with bringing order to chaos after some sort of viral outbreak, and I thought this could present a number of really cool story opportunities and gameplay mechanics that I hadn't seen before. Needless to say, I was a little bit disappointed. The game mechanics seemed to break down to go here, kill dudes, flip switch, defend zone, rinse, repeat. Oh, and collect new gloves. And also listening to the same civilians asking you the same questions like there wasn't enough time to do more voiceovers really kind of breaks that suspension of disbelief when you have this poor civilian all of a sudden cursing you out as if they're not, in a lawless wasteland facing down an armed man, who I might add they just requested help from not moments ago. Question, does this game provide us with a sense of mastery over our environment? Well, if bigger numbers, besides even spongier enemies, dictates progress, then yes, absolutely. If new gloves, hats, and backpacks allow me to withstand a few more seconds of sustained automatic rifle fire to the face, then yes. And if I never have to learn how to manage ammo because it is everywhere, then yes, absolutely. Crazy sense of mastery over this environment. So, I guess in other words, no, not really. Dropping into this supposedly hostile ground zero, loaded for bear with no shortage of ammo in sight, somewhat detracts from the sense of urgency in the situation. Civilians need meds? Sure, there's this giant bottomless box of them over here. Hey, do you need any grenades? I got a few of those here too, no problem. And I guess the question of whether or not you're going to help someone really breaks down to whether or not you want to run back and re-up at the base. Are the rewards properly matched with our exertion and the reason for starting in the first place? Well, I guess if I just spent 10 minutes chipping away at a sponge boss only to discover that the heavy machine gun I was just taking fire from has magically turned into a, sweet set of knee pads or something like that. I guess I've just completed a mission and got nothing in the world to really change. Well, I guess I'll just go for another mission, I guess. Maybe I can get a new hat. So it started out as a disaster in New York where you get to go in and fix everything and solve the world's problems has turned into an eBay shopping spree. Okay, so this might be a good time to touch on our episode on attention bias and confirmation bias. Now, the more this game annoys me, the more I find myself looking for evidence that this game is terrible, so I do apologize for that. I am a subject of my own human nature, too. In our episode on Star Citizen, we talked a little bit about how patience might make the gameplay experience a little bit more palatable for people if we all just learn to be a little bit more patient with these developers as they learn to tweak it to get it just right. Now, that's a little bit of a different story for Star Citizen, mind you. In this game, I really just find myself becoming impatient with the fact that I'm probably going to have to grind for another 70 hours or so in order to get my $1 per hour worth of gaming value. Next up, we have everybody's favorite, cognitive dissonance. Now, what would be the 2 conflicting thoughts that make playing this game so uncomfortable? Well, the first one would be I'm a savvy consumer and I know what games to buy that I can get at least some degree of enjoyment from, and the other thought is, well, this game really isn't all that enjoyable, so how do I resolve these? Well, I guess the best way for me to resolve that is Convince myself and everybody else that I've been duped by savvy marketing. Not that maybe I just made a less than stellar choice in a game purchase. Now, in The Division's defense, I think it is important to point out that this game would be best played with a group of friends and a microphone and all that, and I didn't really do a lot of that just because I didn't really want to join up groups that all had differing goals and all of that, but obviously the Dark Zone in this game will probably offer the most visceral example of group selection. The most cohesive groups that are able to coordinate their efforts with a shared intuition are most likely to prevail in combat. The groups that contain traitors and free riders are most likely going to be the ones that get their stuff shanked by their own teammates while they're trying to airlift it out. If you want the best results in the Dark Zone mathematically, team up with a cooperative group of players and nobody betray each other, and over time you will probably gain the biggest net result. Going rogue may come with a great one-time payoff, but it's also going to make you a target for other players, so choose wisely. In an earlier episode of GamerPsych, we talked a little bit about how DLC can add value to a game down the road, and I'm not really sure it's going to help me too much with this game because the vanilla content was unfortunately pretty bland for me. And frankly, I can't really see how adding more of this is going to make this any more enjoyable. And finally, I think it's important to note that we choose not to give away our power by spending time complaining and blaming others for how we feel. So instead of going off on some rant about how developers are ripping people off with false marketing and blah blah blah, I think it's probably best to just chalk this up to, well, maybe I bought the hype a little bit too much. And you know what? This game might be fun to jump back into with some people in the YouTube Gamers Academy. If you guys haven't had a chance to join up yet, I would definitely recommend it. It appears that it is open for registration once again. So if you haven't had a chance to talk about that with BC, definitely hit him up on Twitter or send him an email directly. So I hope that this shredding of The Division wasn't too horrific for any of you out there who may really enjoy playing this game. And believe me, I mean no personal disrespect for your personal game choices, but again, as you obviously understand, we all have different preferences for games we enjoy, and we all enjoy them for different reasons. That said, I don't wish to sound like I'm exaggerating when I say that this game made me seriously consider if I actually like games anymore. I'm not sure if any of you have had this experience, but maybe you've been playing a game one time and you get such a small amount of enjoyment out of it, you start wondering, maybe I don't like gaming anymore at all. But I'm hoping I can really just chalk up this existential crisis to just a simple mismatch between the choice I made in games and the expectation I had set for myself. So I don't want to come across like I'm hating on The Division, but there's just really nothing I can say about it that I couldn't say about toast. It's the right size, the right shape, and the right level of crispiness. Yeah, it's toast. So yes, this is a third-person shooter, technically, and an RPG, technically, and a disaster shooter, I guess. But, as the great Socrates once said, a disorderly mob is no more an army than a heap of building materials is a house. So this game, although the mechanics are fine, it does leave much to be desired. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time to tune in to the GamerPsych Season 1 finale, and I look forward to seeing all of you on Season 2. Because remember, we are stronger than I.